long time.
Yes, ma'am.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Jumpstart. Today, we're interviewing another super cool incoming software engineer from IU, and I'm sure you've seen him before, and I'm sure you know exactly where he's going. So everyone say hello to Jarod Saxberg. Jarod, what's up?
Doing well. Just getting started the day,
Cool, man. So just to kind of get started right away, right? Obviously, you're an ISE major. So coming in, I would love to hear your perspective on what about that major stood out to you over something more traditional like computer science, and what was your initial plan for your career going into college?
So my idea was I'd always loved working with computers. I wanted to do something that worked with computers. However, computer science, while I still like the idea of computer science, I definitely wanted a much more lower level work with computers, because I do enjoy working with the high level programming languages, but I also like learning how they work. And in computer science, you're not going to get that low level understanding of how the computer works. I've taken 2 classes on computer architecture, classes on they use assembly, stuff like that. That is at a very low level, hardware level. How the computer works is really what interested me. So with ISE, there's a concentration called computer engineering, and computer engineering is the very more overall view of the computer versus computer science, where you're just going to be working with software and programming that. Computer engineering, you're going to be learning about that as well, but you're also going to be learning the intricacies of how a computer works. So that was my main push towards computer engineering within ISE, because I wanted that lower level education of how computers work.
Yeah, for sure. So did you see yourself as a hardware guy, maybe in NVIDIA or an Intel, or something that's more, direct on the hardware side of the computing side? Or, did you actually, my question should be, did you see yourself, even though you were going into low level computing, ending up as a software engineer, or was that something that kind of just happened?
So I think it's something that kind of just happened. I still enjoyed working with embedded systems, which is basically talking about the very low level stuff. You'd be creating little boards called PCBs. Basically, imagine a motherboard, and you have all the wires that are very printed on there, very small. That's a PCB. And I think working with stuff like that is still really cool, because you're working at such a low level as well. You're going to be working in C, working with having to worry about all your bits, storing data in memory on there. You have to worry about how you manage that. So I still enjoyed working with embedded systems, so I would have liked to have done either. Though I do think the software engineering role that I'm doing isn't necessarily software engineering like you'd think of it, because it's within a cybersecurity team, and the team I'm on is just a red team. We do penetration testing. So I'd still be doing some software engineering, because there's tools that the team needs designed. But my main focus and the main thing I'll be doing on this team is pen testing. So that's going to be more cybersecurity style. There's going to be some software engineering, but it's not going to be the focus. So I think it's kind of it's a nice mix of both. I can still be coding on the side, and then I can also still be working with low level computer concepts, because when you have stuff like malware that takes advantage of your system, it tries to work at a very low level to avoid the operating system and avoid being detected. So having to understand that's also really important. So again, I just like it because it's a balance of everything.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So you said you're going to be doing software engineering, but it's not your traditional straight up software engineering. So can you talk about what your process was like for your Microsoft internship? Was it very similar to any other kids wanting to run the traditional software process, or were you doing something more cybersecurity specific?
Yeah, so when I applied, there was, within this context, there's 2 different applications. There's one that's internship opportunities for undergraduate students, software engineering, and then there's one that's internship opportunities, blah, 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 cybersecurity. And I applied to both. However, my application proceeded through the cybersecurity one. So within the cybersecurity, there's different roles that you could go. There's obviously the software engineer. They have product managers within cybersecurity. Then you can also have solutions engineer, or incident response people. So they looked at my resume and they pushed me through towards the software engineering within cybersecurity. So my application didn't go through the traditional applying for software engineering pathway. So even when I was at Microsoft for the final day, for the final round interview, everybody had their own little groups that they're split up to. Like you had a little sticker you put on your name badge, and like if you were doing the cybersecurity one, you had a different color than people doing software engineering. So the interview processes were completely split up. They're pretty different. So when I was there, I was talking to people who I had met who were doing software engineering, hearing their interviews, and their interviews were definitely more difficult. Like their coding interviews for the final round were definitely more difficult than the coding interviews that I had gone through. However, in mine, they also wanted to see interest in computer architecture and like low level work with computer, work with cybersecurity, because it's not just, you can't just go into it doing like, okay, I've done 20 leak code questions and I'm going to do this. You also have to have some interest and some passion and possibly even some work with cybersecurity in the past. So I think that is what also helped drive me through, was because I'd done some work with cybersecurity in the past. So the interview processes, like I said, they were different because they were through different pathways.
Gotcha. So what sort of, including your past cybersecurity experiences and including, your typical technical interview preparation, what sort of things on your resume were you leveraging and really talking about in each interview to make sure that you stood out as a candidate?
Yeah, so the team, like when I was doing the internship over the summer and talking to people on the team, they had really like identified me because I had a specific tool on my resume that the team used. It's called Ghidra, which is like a reverse engineering tool. And I had done work with that over a summer doing like reverse engineering with Ghidra, and Ghidra allows you to like write scripts to automate stuff. So I had done this stuff over the summer in research, and this team, there's two major reverse engineering suites. There's one called IDA Pro, and then there's Ghidra. The team had mainly used IDA, but they were really interested in learning about Ghidra because it was brand new. So that really drew them towards me, is because I had that experience in this toolkit that they were wanting to learn about and wanting to potentially use more. So I think having that experience is what really sold me to them, is because I had worked with it before. And like I said, I worked with it in research. I took a class that used it. And that was what really sold me to them. So I think for me, it was just like having that experience on there really made me stand out. So any relevant experience you have that you can put on your resume is always going to be extremely good and extremely beneficial to you, because it could be the chance that the team uses this technology a lot and they want to use it more. So they want someone who's also worked in it, so that can help drive you through the process. So what we always recommend, even within career services, is to really personalize your resume for the role you're applying for. Like I was going for, like I had gone, when I was applying for internships, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do something like virtual reality work, because I'd done virtual reality work my sophomore year, or if I wanted to do pure like cybersecurity, software engineering work. So I had two different versions of my resume, because I had done projects with virtual reality, I had done projects with reverse engineering. So when I'm identifying and applying like security focused roles, I'm obviously going to be specifying it towards the reverse engineering stuff that I've done. But if I'm going to apply to like VR or maybe a little bit more generalized role, even like maybe tech consulting, I'm going to go and put like just the VR projects I've done, because they're a little bit easier to understand, but also they're more relevant for some of the other jobs I was applying for.
Yeah, absolutely. So, junior year, you get your offer, you go through the whole school year, you're excited to be in Seattle, COVID hits, everything gets moved virtual. Now you're doing it from the comfort of Mooresville, Indiana, right? So walk me through your virtual internship experience. How was that obviously different from what you were expecting? And, how did you still make sure that you were succeeding and performing well enough at that virtual internship to secure a return offer for Microsoft?
Yeah, so it was definitely a big change. I don't think we got notified until April that it had gone virtual. So a lot of the teams had to just throw something together. And, for the teams that made it work, it was very good because they did it in such short turnaround time. It was definitely difficult for my team to have made it work, because with like the stuff that we work on, it's very sensitive stuff within the company, because the team is basically hacking into Microsoft products and finding vulnerabilities they have. So it's extremely sensitive material, because if this gets out, then that can open up Microsoft to getting hacked. So I had to get I had 2 laptops from the company, like different smart cards to authenticate me. Basically, I just had a lot of extra steps I had to take security-wise to be able to log into the system and do my work, just because they had to really try to clamp down on security of the stuff that I was working on. So there was extra steps that I had to take to be able to get access to everything and all that. But really, this thing I was working on was just one major project over the summer. And my idea was like, most of my time was spent working on this project. So just my days were coding it, troubleshooting, trying to figure out how to best make it work and learning about the tools that would be used for it. But then also just learning about the team, learning about the organization I was a part of. There's still a lot that's available to you. There's a huge network. I mean, Microsoft's a gigantic company. So I was really trying to leverage the people at the company. I was doing like one-on-one like networking meetings with engineers throughout the company, no matter if they were in security or what. Like I met with a guy who was in Azure, met with a guy who was on Xbox. So I met a lot of different people in the company, and that really like kind of sold the company to me. So I was doing my internship project, meeting with people in the company, but I was also like doing whatever I could to be involved with the organization I was in. They were doing like an AMA, like the head of the organization was doing an AMA for the interns, and they were asking for interns to volunteer. So I was the first one to volunteer, and I got 2 other interns who were in the group to join me to help out. So I'm directly working with like the direct reports of the head of this organization to help make this a success. So I just like really tried to do what I could to put myself out there, working with the heads of the organization, succeeding in doing my project, getting along with people on my team. And I think all that really just accumulated in having a good experience. And I learned a lot, got to talk to a lot of cool people. And yeah, that kind of sums it up.
Yeah. So pretty much having, being virtual, you knew that you weren't really going to get that physical face time with people in the office. So you had to kind of go above and beyond to, again, put yourself out there, right? Ask for help
and I will
out with
say
events, network, XYZ.
Yeah, I will say it's definitely difficult being virtual because like you didn't meet nearly as many people as you would in person. So like intern wise, like you meet some people, but definitely it's not as much as in person. But that's still fine. Like eventually I'm going to be moving out there and can meet a lot of these people in person then once we get through this pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, now that you're going back full time, you're officially a senior, you got, a couple months before you head out there. What excites you most about starting your career at such a great company?
Honestly, kind of like I'm really excited to be in the area. I love the West Coast and I'm excited to go back. So there's that. Also, like, because I said before, it's such a huge company. There's so many people to learn from. I'm going to definitely be spending as much time as I can when I start there, just trying to learn. And that the company really focuses on that. They understand like I'm coming fresh out of college. I'm not going to know everything right off the bat. So those first 6 months or whatever is just really going to be a big learning period for me. They're probably going to have me sit in on some pen tests, learn what they do, go and get some security certifications, take some training, just do what I can to learn so that eventually after like 6 months to a year, I'm ready to go and go off on my own and do stuff on my own. So I really like the company. Like Microsoft, one of their like key fundamentals is growth mindset. They always want people to be thinking how they can improve and how they can get better. And that's a big thing that draws me to them because they're really focused on helping people learn. And they also really focus on having that work-life balance, that you're not getting overwhelmed with your work, that what happens at work stays at work. And then when you're home, that you might be on call for something for people in Azure who have to like be available to respond to stuff. But they really tried to make sure that you are happy while you're working there. So I just think it's a really good company. So I'm really excited to be starting out working for them.
That's awesome. What was your favorite piece of Microsoft swag that you got?
I want to say probably just a sweatshirt I had because it was the most personalized one. I had gotten swag that was like just Microsoft branded and stuff, which is cool. But I really like the one that it's a sweatshirt that says CSEO, which is like the major organization I'm in, because I like to have that more focused stuff that shows like I worked within this organization. So I'm not wearing it now. It's in my bedroom, but it's probably my favorite one.
Okay, sweet. So that's all super cool. And, that's like an awesome process, awesome story kind of coming up from like ISE, heading to a really great company, dealing with a virtual internship, kind of coming back and, ready to join the company full time. So, last question I have for you, students that want to recruit at Microsoft or any big end company, or students that are ISE students that really want to make a jump into software engineering and leverage those level of skills, like what is some general advice you have for those students?
I would say students in general, you just really you have to have your tech skills, but you also just need to be a good person to talk to. Like whenever you're in an interview, you need to make sure it's like conversational. You have to have a good like rapport with your interviewer to be able to succeed well. Of course, you can be the smartest person ever, have the best technical skills ever, but if it's kind of an awkward interview, that's gonna make your chances lower. If you can have good tech skills, you solve the question, you can solve it well, and you can have a good conversation with the interviewer. Maybe you find something that you guys both like and you just sit there talking about it for a while. That's gonna help you out a lot, especially because typically the decisions revolve, at least with Microsoft, it revolves around one of the interviews. So I had 2 interviews. My first one didn't go great, but my second one went really well. And the second one is the reason that I had got the offer, because he basically was like, yeah, we'd like this student. And that guy I worked with was the manager of the team that I'd be joining over the summer. So if you can really like connect with one of your interviewers, it's going to be really good and really beneficial for you. For ISE students, it can be difficult because no one knows what ISE is. But that's also like a kind of an icebreaker you can do. They're going to see your major and be like, what is this? And you get to tell them what ISE is and what you do, what you've learned in the class. And I mean, even in my interview, the interviewer asked me, what is this? And I was like, oh, it's really cool. We're working with very like new technology, IoT, smart devices, stuff like that. And then when I was talking about computer engineering, I talked to him how we're doing computer architecture, basically the idea of building a computer from scratch from NAND gates. Whoever's taken ISE will know that. And he was really interested in that because he really likes computer architecture. So we just found this connection and we just sat there and had a conversation about this specific thing for a little bit. And it was really good because he's passionate about it, I was passionate about it, and we really had that connection. But also with ISE students, you need to understand that because companies don't know this major yet, anytime you apply to a company, you're representing the major as a whole. Like if you don't have a good resume and you're just tossing resumes out there without really caring for it, you're gonna make companies look down on ISE students because they're like, okay, we're getting just a bunch of not great resumes from these people. This major must not be great. So just think when you're applying, even within like CS, informatics, whatever you are, when you're applying, you're representing the school. If a company is gonna go and look through applications and they see great application after great application coming from the school, they're going to think, let's look more at the school. We continue having really good applications from them. Maybe we should look and put a little bit more effort recruiting directly with them. So really make sure that you just have a nice polished resume that you pass in, because when you do it, you represent the school and you're representing your school, your major, everything like that. If say you get something at a big company, you're an ISE student, whatever. When you do that, if you do well, again, that's just encouraging companies to focus on coming here to get students from this major even more. So do what you can to make sure that you have the best chances for yourself, and also really try to understand that you're reflecting the school as a whole when you're applying. So make sure that you have a good application, good resume, you go there, you give it 100%, and just try to be successful. Obviously at times some stuff's not going to work out, but that's okay. What can you learn from it? What can you grow to move on for the next time you interview, and the next time you get to that situation? How can you do better? Always just have that growth mindset. Always think about how you can improve and how you can do better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice. And again, looking forward, I think career services is really here to help you guys get better. And look, whether you sign an offer with Facebook, Amazon, Google, or sign an offer with some other random company, or don't sign an offer at all, that doesn't really affect us. We want to make sure that whatever you're doing is what you want to be doing, and you have the optionality to pursue opportunities at great companies, right? So what Jarod was talking about of getting your resume looked at, getting your interview, like your mock interviews done, preparing for these opportunities is always going to be good, and that's what we're here to help you out. Like, again, if you don't want to use this, it's completely fine, but we would really encourage you to definitely come meet with advisors and get your resume looked at, and just pretty much sharpen your knives for the recruiting process, because it is competitive. And kids at IU are very smart, and I think kids in the IT program are very smart, but it's just that we haven't really had the time to develop these relationships as some of the other schools have. But that doesn't mean that our kids aren't qualified to get there. So kids like Jarod, we've had other peer advisors in the past actually end up at Microsoft, which is great. So it's definitely possible, and I think it just takes a little bit of work on our end. But Jarod, thanks again for taking the time to chat with us today. I know you're a pretty busy kid, being a second semester senior with a full-time job.
Oh yeah,
but
totally, man.
join us again next week where we'll help you jumpstart your career in tech. All right, take it easy, guys.
See ya.